This is going to be a case study, if you will, for the Dickies pants. In the last video I did about 4 years ago, I was using the 874. I have since switched to the cargo, and I believe it's the relaxed fit cargo. So it's not the widest fit, but it's wider than the 874s because it doesn't have a straight leg. It's the same fabric as the 874. It's an 8.5 ounce Polycotton twill weave. It's a 65% polyester, 35% cotton mix. I have really liked Dickies because instead of specifically, like even for outdoor activities, the polyester dries fairly quickly, but it's still, in my experience, it doesn't burn as easy as an 100% polyester fabric would. You know, and I've made campfires and cooked outside on the grill, and I haven't had an issue where sparks burned a hole through them. Where I've had that with I've even had it with other 65-35 mixes. I think I had it with a pair of Fjallravens, which is the same mix, but I think theirs is more of a basket weave. So not sure why, but there's just a little comparison for you. These ones here I purchased about 9 months to a year ago, and they're pretty much the only pants I've been using. So they reach about the average I get out of a pair of Dickies, which I wouldn't say is the best value because they used to, I used to, when it was 2020, I could buy them on sale for about 20 bucks. The recent price I've seen of them has been closer to $30, $35. So I don't know, in my opinion, since I'm a little bit cheap, that's definitely, you know, increased by over 50% in a few years. This pair here, usually with the Dickies, I wear out the crotch, like I think most pants do now. These ones here, though, they're still, you can definitely see they've been pulled at, but they're still holding together pretty well, all things considered. I haven't reached a point yet where they've split apart. So, and I usually don't have an issue with the fabric tearing either. It's usually just, well, the fabric tears at the seam is what I basically mean. It doesn't, I don't get holes in the fabric. Somewhere on here I was crawling over a barbed wire and I got a pretty good scratch on it. Not really, but it wasn't really noticeable and it didn't puncture it. Not sure if I can find it. So, yeah, right here. So you can see right there, it did a scratch in there, but it didn't tear apart the fabric. So one issue I have had with these, going back to the classic quality control issues, is one of these legs is taller than the other. So now I am about 5'10", which I think is about 170. Let me check this thing right here. Oh wait, no, 70 centimeters for you Euro folks or non-Americans. And so one of these, basically the length of this right here is, this one here is about that much taller than the other pant leg. And as you can see, as a result of it, I usually do buy bigger. These are 34-inch inseam, and I would probably be 12-inch, but I do like them to cover the bottom of my shoes and boots. So you can see there's a pretty good tear there. Whereas if you look at the other side here, there's wear, but there's not a split in the fabric, and it's still holding together fine. Compare that to this, and they're pretty much shredded. So that's one problem I've had with them. I've had issues in the past with Dickies, and I think they actually have a pretty good guarantee, or at least a satisfaction. And I told them that something was wrong. I think it was the connector. This thing here. A lot of people hate this hook, but I actually really like it. So, I mean, I guarantee you I could break that if I pulled at it like that. But I've never broken them just by wearing them. But although I usually will say I size up. These pair are about a 34-inch waist, and I'm a 33, maybe 32 right now. One thing I've noticed, and I don't think I've lost weight, but these ones fit now like a 36-inch waist. They really just don't fit me at all anymore. So I was just going to measure that. So I guess they're a little bit wider than 17, so that would be about 35 inches. So, you know, once again, the quality control in Dickies is just all over the place. And I'll compare that because I've got my backup pair now right here. And these ones basically fit like a 33. And the thing is, I bought these at the exact same time. Now with the cargos, they don't sell them in half sizes, so it's either 32, 34. No, this one says 34, but yeah, so basically you have at least an inch difference in the waist. What else was I gonna say? So you can see right there, that's the problem I've had with these. This area here is just totally torn out. It started right here a few months ago. Well, actually closer to about 4 or 5 months ago. And I don't think it pierced through here, but basically I had one of those moments where the whole thing just tore out when I was grabbing some firewood. I got a stick stuck in there and it just tore the whole thing open. And it's not the fabric, it's the stitching. It's subpar in this case. One cool thing, I've said this about with the shoes before, is that they actually put the manufacturer date. It doesn't really apply much on this like it would be with footwear, since some of those do wear out over time. But thing is, you can see right here, this was made September 22nd, 2022 in Honduras. Now, what I can do is I can compare them to this one here, which definitely fits better. I don't have an issue with this one with the length of one of the... I can tell one of the legs is slightly longer, but it's less than half of an inch, and it's not something that's problematic. Now see, this one's got a totally different tag. This one here is made in Bangladesh, and this one was made at least a year beforehand. So I do think, I don't know if maybe just Honduras, because I usually buy just dark navy. I usually don't buy the schoolboy khaki color, but I think maybe just the dark navy ones are made in Honduras. Maybe the khaki ones are made in Bangladesh. I'm not sure how that's done. You know, if it's just to fill like a supply demand or what. So what else can I go over this? I've never had an issue with the pockets. Now these ones, since it's a wider fit, I have had stuff slide out of the pockets more often, but I've never actually had a break in them where stuff just started sliding through it. I don't use the back pockets, so I can't really give you an opinion on those, but nothing's broke on them. With the cargos here though, one thing I have had in the past with cargo pockets is that this corner here, and it's not just with this one, it can catch on to stuff and it wants to tear off. It's double stitched. As you can see, I haven't had an issue with it tearing. I actually really like the way that there's pockets that expand from the inside here. So it's sort of pleated. I've had others where sort of it's the opposite of this. Can't really show this, and can I? So like it would be like the inside here, where there's this inside here that folds out like this, or bellows, I guess. And that part's on the outside, and that part here will snag and grab stuff. So I do really like the way they orient their cargo pockets, and they're not too big. I mean, typically you want the heavier shit in your side pockets and lighter stuff like a handkerchief down there, but because you can definitely feel it down the leg. That's one other pro I'll give it to. I haven't tried another cargo pants where the pockets are way too close to the knee, and then if you're wearing anything heavy, it just starts banging in your leg if you're moving quickly. One problem I have seen with these is the Velcro getting weaker. It still holds pretty well. It's fairly light now though, comparison. Here, I'll take out these ones. These ones are brand new and they're much stronger than the other ones. You know, with Velcro, you eventually just get stuff stuck in there. The one thing I will say is I guess I wish the Velcro was just a little bit wider, because sometimes when you're sitting and, you know, you kick your feet up or something, you do worry that stuff can slide out of the pocket. Although, like I said, it's not as bad as I've had with other cargo pants pockets. So I think that's about it. I went over the stitching. Didn't have the usual issue, like I said, with the crotch blowout. And again, I think that's because it's a wider fit. One thing I guess, here's the rambling part, so feel free to exit the video. One thing I've seen with a lot of these pants, or at least in my lifetime in the last 10 years, is there's been a trend to go like skinny pants, and typically woven fabrics just don't handle skinny very well. I think the reason we have so many crotch blowouts now is that they're chasing fashion essentially, and so they make things skinnier. They lower the rises. This is one of the last higher rise pairs of pants that there is, and I mean, I think things are now trending back looser in the last few years, but still, you basically need a knit for a skinnier fit. So I think a good example of that's the Fjallraven. I'll go over that in the future. I've tried a few of their pants. The Keb pants are basically use a stretch nylon, and then it uses their G1000, which is a Polycotton that's like more of a basket weave of canvas than a twill. But it's the same makeup of 65 polyester, 35 cotton. And their Keb pants use that stretch fabric so they can have that skinny boy look that people crave. But the what's the other one called? The Vita Pro. That's the one that's kind of a baggier fit and used non-stretch. Now eventually they added a diamond sort of stretchy part down at the crotch, but it's still, I think because it's a lower rise, I don't know how to do this in terms of like geometrics, but basically I think it just causes more stress at the crotch, and so that's the first thing that blew out. It's just, the one thing I remember is the first part of my life, when things weren't skinny, I don't remember crotch blowouts in pants. It was usually knee blowouts. So now I've seen some pants had reinforced seat. I think the hard thing with that with Dickies is that Dickies, in terms of being workwear, looks a little bit more presentable than any of the other alternatives I've provided in the past video. But I don't know if a reinforced seat would necessarily look fashionable. And I'm not talking about in modern fashion, but just sort of presentable. But regardless, I just don't remember that. And the one thing I've noticed with the Vita Pro, going back to Fjallraven, is they changed the design of it in the last year. And they call it the improved fit, but what they've done is they've just made it skinnier. And so it just doesn't fit as well. Now, in terms of ergonomics, I'll give it like a 4 out of 5. And usually the way I test that most is just being able to raise my knees up to my chest or whatever and seeing if I get resistance, midway through the pant, basically. And so I find more if the pant just hangs on your legs and your thighs, it flexes easier with your skin. Whereas if it's a tighter fit, it's just going to catch on and you're going to feel like you're, dressed up like a lady wearing a tight outfit. So, but I also find, in my opinion, I find higher rise pants, they just sort of hang more on your hips and allow even this part here to hang more freely, which is what I think leads to crotch blowout. So I say 4 out of 5 though. The 874s, which were also, again, the same fabric, I would give like a 3 out of 5. Whereas these with the fit, again, one, I haven't had the crotch blowout, which I think is what leads to the better ergonomics of the design functioning with your body, but also I can easily wear a pair of liners under these. And so, and I still don't have catching. Now, one problem with the liners is if you're wearing like a wool on long johns or something, or even fleece, it still does catch on this fabric. This fabric's not very slidey like you would see like in a Sucos nylon liner type of deal, but it still works fairly well. I just have a slight bit of resistance at the knee. There are other pants though I would say are 5 out of 5 in ergonomics. I will say I think the Big Bills has a pair of pants that I'm going to test in the future that has that in their cargo as well. And those are, I think, a U.S. fabric that's made in Canada, but it's definitely more expensive than Dickies. There's Ben Davis they definitely have like gorilla pants. They've got a thicker fabric. A few years ago, I recommended Red Cap, which is owned by the same company as Dickies, which they use a similar fabric composition essentially. They have a thicker pair that's also called the Duck Dungarees, but I found the design of those way too restrictive, so I just sold them. However, I do think that the Ben Davis they even have, like I said, they've got 3 fits. They've got trim fit, standard fit, and I think Gorilla. And so they have super wide sizings, and it's also like a 10.5 ounce. So if you want a thicker fabric, that's a good option to look at. I don't have cargo pant pockets, so they're not something I'll probably try anytime soon, but I'll definitely try the Big Bill, or yeah, Big Bill. And then what else is there? I think that's about it. One other one I recommended in the other video was NyCo, which is, instead of a polycotton, it's a nylon cotton. There are some differences. I find polyester burns easier. Polyester, I think, is a little bit less strong, so I think nylon's a bit of a stronger fabric. However, I do think polyester runs a little bit warmer. I think nylon runs a little bit cooler. Nylon's a little bit more flame resistant in my experience. Although I will say polyester dries a little bit faster than nylon. So there's pros and cons to both. One thing I've liked about this, I kind of mentioned before, was like I've been fishing out all day out in the rain. It was a light rain because that's just the environment I tend to live in, is constant light rain and not heavy rain. But because most of the fabric hangs off my body, even if it gets wet, it doesn't necessarily transfer. And then it also dries really fast because it's polyester. So just a couple thoughts right there, and alternatives, and the usual MO with Dickie, which is they still have great fabric, but their quality control is all over the roof. So pick your poison.